It is 8:31, and I'm going to call this meeting of the Jefferson County Supervisors to order. First on our agenda is acknowledge the minutes from the previous meeting, March 8th, and let me see if we, March 28th, not 8th, last time we met. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Drish, a second from Sandquist to approve the minutes from the March 28th, 2022 meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, we're going to meet with our county engineer next. So Dwayne Hines, good morning.
Good morning, supervisors. Hope everybody's well today.
Yes, we are.
Glad to hear that. I had a couple dicey days last week with the stomach bug, so I wasn't here the whole week, but I seem to be fully recovered. So we'll give this a run. Crews have been out for the last couple of weeks with the total patcher and also the cold mix filling potholes and doing spot repairs on the paved roads. And I think anybody who lives off a paved road is well aware that the gravel roads are in need of some love. And they've been running in every district with at least one truck and blade trying to stay ahead of the worst of it. Some of the roads have been decent. Some of them have been described as a pile of poo. So
I know the first 2 years I was on the board, we had a big problem at 110th and Packwood Road. And that intersection on the west or the east side was always such a big moist sinkhole.
yeah.
And I don't know whether we're experiencing that same problem again right
Well,
now.
I haven't had any problem with that one, but on west towards the Pekin School and south on Butternut,
Mhm.
then it'd be south of Packwood. Was in pretty dire shape.
Okay.
From 110th to H17, it was pretty decent. Then on south of that, it was pretty rough.
Mhm.
But I think you can find roads in every one of the greater districts that is in tough shape, but we're working along and getting it. Part of our, let's see, we've also had to close 140th Street east of Jasmine. The culvert there is rusted out and starting to collapse. So for safety, we'll close that.
Okay.
That'll be one of our tank car replacements later this year, as soon as it gets fit to do that. I gave you guys a list of the tanker car projects, because we need to start buying the materials for that, and each one of those pipe is somewhere in the $20,000 to $30,000 range, depending on the size. I just wanted to make you guys aware of that expense is going to be coming up, and it's more of a maintenance item. We normally don't talk to you guys when we're buying our regular culverts that we use throughout the year, but because the tank cars are kind of a special item, I wanted to
Right.
make you guys aware of that. Budget wise, we're doing well on the culverts. We've included in the proposed revision money to move around from construction to maintenance to take care of the increased rock the guys are putting on, and then also these tank car projects. Let's see, and then we've also got 2 low water crossings that we'll need to address that have some issues later on this year.
Where are those?
One's on 187th and the other's 160th, and those are both going to involve ash, I believe.
Okay.
Just part of the county where their ravines are a little steeper and deeper, and they're low volume roads. So,
okay.
Yeah, the one was originally constructed before Billy was here, and they put it in too high. So it's backing up into the adjacent fields before it goes over the road.
Not good.
No, so that was brought to our attention. And the other one on 160th, it was just I'm not sure what's wrong with it. They supposedly put concrete and ballast in there, and you dig down there and there's nothing there now. So I'm not quite sure.
Evaporating concrete. That's a new mix.
Yeah,
I have not heard of
I don't know. That was whatever it wasn't done correctly. So we're gonna go in and get it fixed.
Okay.
I think the DOT's done patching up at Packwood Road and H17 for their detour.
Mhm.
And I'm sure we'll be seeing increased traffic on that because I believe that bridge closes today.
Yeah, that's my route.
That's your route?
Yep.
Yeah.
She's got to find a new one.
Then 2 weeks ago, I gave you guys the 5-year plan that
Mhm.
I was working on. I was going to give you a revised 5-year plan because I went through and had made some changes, but the County Service Bureau site's been down since Thursday night and still is not up. But there's a couple items I wanted to move around. We have a bridge project that is 100% designed and ready to let. And I talked with the folks at Calhoun Burns. We'd like to try and get that in for letting yet this fall so that we can take advantage of the swap funds as opposed to letting it slack past the first of the year, in which case it would become federal aid and have increased oversight and paperwork restrictions. So we're going to move forward, try and get that one kind of shoehorned in the end of this fiscal year.
Okay.
Let's see, I think we've got a couple items on the agenda.
Yeah, I see a couple of resolutions here. We want to talk about those now.
Do I have anything else that I need to stick? We've got one couple of DOT paving audits for the asphalt projects that happened prior to me. Those are still on the back burner. They're ready to go, but the DOT is doing staffing changes, so that's delayed if there's no actual problem. No actual problem with the paperwork on those.
Yay!
So it's just a matter of them finding time to do it.
Good.
And then the brains of the office, Mr. Mark Bell, that came and talked to me last week that he's decided he wants to retire and enjoy some time. So
Good thing he got you trained.
just barely.
Yeah. Well,
I told him we wouldn't let him leave until he trained his replacement. So we will
What timeline is he looking at?
sooner rather than later. So if he can be out by the end of May, he'd like to be.
okay.
So
That's still, you only need to give a couple of weeks.
he doesn't need to give anything, but it's nice that he did and he's offering to stay.
Yeah.
He's just a class individual and we're really gonna miss him.
Yeah.
The nice thing is he knows so much about where all the paperwork is in that office.
Yep.
And I don't know how I would have functioned without him being there.
And he's been here 18 years now.
Yeah.
16,
Yeah.
18.
Something like that.
Right. Yeah, he's a pretty sharp gentleman and we're gonna miss him. But we're advertising now and I've been in contact with Jack. He asked me for our other job descriptions, so I sent those over to him as well, because I think the last time our job descriptions were updated was maybe 1992. So they may not be compliant with all requirements, so he's gonna go through those.
He'll work with Jack Reed, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other thing I've got is Billy's been talking with the folks at the Dewdrop.
Yeah.
And they're still on board they're still interested in the project or property swap. Their question to us was if we could take care of the fence for them. And we have the equipment for it and the guys with the skill to do it. So I didn't think that was a big.
And that's just relocating the fence from where it's at over 40 feet, I think is what we were talking about, right?
Yeah, originally we talked about having them do that, but then they would have to hire somebody. And with a small the small size of it and not actually buying new fence, it would be quite expensive to hire somebody to do it, because a fencing contractor is gonna want to sell new fence, not mess with relocating fence. So I could probably get that knocked out in part of an afternoon, so that was a big issue.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I just wonder if that sets any kind of precedent. We have to worry. It's our land, so it probably doesn't. Does that make sense?
It's our land until it's sold.
Right.
And if we want to move
Move
the
it.
fence on our own prerogative until it's sold, it's still our fence to move.
Okay.
So, all right.
Yeah, that's all I have other than the items
Okay.
that you guys have in front of you, I believe.
Thank you, Dwayne. We're going to move on now to consider resolution to award contract to Dowd Stones LLC for contract rock maintenance on local roads in Jefferson County. The resolution reads, whereas bids were received April 15th, 2021 for project LG 2022 G -73-51. Be it resolved by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to award the contract to Dowd Stone LLC for contract rock maintenance on local roads in Jefferson County. So is there anything specific we need to know about this other than, this was, their bids were received on April 15th of 2021 is what it
22.
says.
Yeah,
So it needs to be corrected to
yeah,
2022.
that would have been last week, not a year and a week ago.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, yeah, we had two bids, Downstone and Wind Quarry, and for each of the different grader districts, and Dowd was successful on location.
Okay, there's another date on here that needs to be changed as well because it says past this 11th day of April 2022, and today is the 18th. No,
That's
it's
the
not.
11th.
Today's the
It's the
11th.
Yeah, you guys see,
I've got seeing eye problems today, but we received bids on April 15th, but we're passing them on April 11th.
We received them on the 5th, actually, we received them on March 25th.
Okay, so we need to have this revised then.
I know.
So ask Thomas to revise
Yeah, we can
his
get that
resolution.
revised for you.
So do we want to just,
So what's the amount? What's the amount?
how much?
You know what? I never had it.
Are we under the gun to do this? Can we redo this next week?
Okay, let's,
Yeah,
Bring us the amount, please,
Yeah.
and let's just get this cleaned up. a bit easier.
okay, I would take a motion to postpone this resolution until our next meeting
So
on the
moved.
18th and get our corrections made and bring it back. Okay, I've got a motion from
Bring
Sandquist, a
numbers,
second
you know,
from
like-
Drish.
Yeah,
All
we'll
those
get
in
numbers.
favor, say aye.
Right.
Aye. Okay, well, we'll leave this till next week then. Next, we'll move on to discuss and consider changes to entrance permit for residential farm and business locations. And the resolution is as follows: be it resolved by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors that the price increase to $100 and charge of not accepting dual wall plastic pipe culverts to new entrance permits for residential business or farm driveways be effective March 1st of 2022. So explain to us a little bit about this.
We had been charging $10 since time immemorial for entrance permits, which doesn't cover the cost of me signing the dang things, let alone Thomas running out twice to inspect the site prior and afterwards. $100 doesn't cover it either, but
But it's something.
it's something. Keokuk County's at 150, I believe, and so is Washington. We want people to get the permit, so we didn't want to make it onerous. We do want to make sure that they get them installed correctly. Because by our county ordinance, once they're installed, they're ours.
Mhm.
We want to make sure they're done correctly. And we want to make sure that they're a durable material. And that's why we're not allowing the plastic.
Mhm.
The dual wall PVC pipe is fine as long as you don't burn ditches, but
Yeah.
Yeah. so
once ditches burn, the plastic pipes seem to go with it. So we'd like to eliminate that.
Okay.
So how do we publicize this, or do we?
It's the permit, I believe, is on our website.
Okay.
So whenever somebody comes in, usually people will come in. We rarely get email applications. Usually people stick their head in the door and want to visit with us about what they're doing. So
Okay.
at that point, we let them know what the requirements are.
Okay, motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from Sandquist, second from Grish to approve resolution as read. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, let's get this signed. And then, of course, this is your little detailed drawing that they need to come and pick up
Yeah.
for the permit. So we had a copy of that in there. Back to her. Thank you. All right, Dwayne, thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
You have a good day.
You as well. See you then.
Okay, so we will cross that off. Next, we'll move on to discuss and consider resolution for the destruction of noxious weeds.
And this is an annual
Right.
resolution we do.
And, let's see, this whole resolution is be it resolved by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County that pursuant to the provision of Chapter 317, 2021 Code of Iowa, it is hereby ordered that each owner and each person in the possession or control of any land in Jefferson County shall cut, burn, or otherwise destroy all noxious weeds thereon as defined in this chapter at such times in each year and in such manner as shall be prescribed by the Board of Supervisors. Each owner and each person in the possession or control of any land in Jefferson County shall also and shall keep said lands free from such growth of any other weeds as shall render the streets and highways adjoining said lands unsafe for public travel. Noxious weeds shall be cut or otherwise destroyed on or before the following date and as often as necessary to prevent seed production. May 15th, 2022 for immediate eradication of Palmer aramith for control of leafy spurge, Canada thistle, bull thistle, teasel, multifloral rose, field bindweed, all other species of thistles belonging to the genus of Cardus and water hemp. 2, that each owner and each person in the possession or control of any lands in Jefferson County infested with noxious weeds, including the immediate eradication of Palmer aramith and the control of leafy spurge, Canada thistle, bull thistle, teasel, multifloral rose, field bindweed, all other species of thistles belonging to the genus of Cardus and water hemp shall adopt a program of weed destruction described by the weed commissioner, which in 5 years may be expected to destroy and will immediately keep under control such infestations of said noxious weeds. 3, that if the owners or persons in possession or control of any land in Jefferson County fail to comply with the foregoing orders, the weed commissioner shall cause this to be done and the expense of said work, including costs of serving notice and other costs, if any, to be assessed against the land and the owners thereof. Number 4, that the county auditor be and he is hereby directed to cause notice of the making and entering of the foregoing order by one publication in the official newspapers of the county. Resolution passed on this 11th day of April 2022. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Grish, a second from Sandquist to approve this resolution on noxious weeds, official notice to all property owners. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. That was a mouthful. Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on to consider Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation. Okay.
This is the one we talked about a couple weeks ago, but we didn't have.
We didn't have a copy of the actual resolution in front of us. If you would like to read this one, I would be more than happy to allow you to do that.
You want to, or you want me to?
I think you do a good job.
I'm just going to start at the whereas. Our goal is for every Child Abuse Prevention Council in the state to receive an official proclamation from the County Board of Supervisors. Enclosed, you will find the language from the governor's proclamation, which may be adapted for use in your county. We have also attached resources to help you find for county governance and some tips and ideas for engaging your leaders and community members. All right. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem that can be prevented. And whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of Iowa. And whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children. And whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas all members of the community benefit from creating conditions that support strong and healthy families. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Now, therefore, the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors do here proclaim April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in Jefferson County and urge all citizens to recognized this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families.
Okay, attached to that is the State of Iowa Executive Department's proclamation stating virtually the same thing, signed by Governor Kim Reynolds, and also countersigned by Paul Pate, Secretary of State. So with some revisions in this, I think we can go ahead and ask for a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll say that motion.
Okay, I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish to approve the resolution proclaiming the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. So we'll make a couple of revisions to it so that I can go ahead and sign that here. There's no signatures needed right now. So. Because all of that on the top needs to be changed. And it'll need to be redone. Okay, so we'll move on to one last thing before we meet with Denise Ballard regarding health insurance renewal. We want to consider memorandum of understanding regarding reimbursement from Southeast Iowa Seal Length Mental Health and Disability Services Region for county employees, occupancy, and equipment. Do we have time to be able to do
I
this
don't think
before the
so.
9 o'clock? Okay.
We could start it. It depends if you
Well-
want to read the whole thing or just go through the highlights.
Well, I think I'd rather go through the whole thing, so we'll just put that one on hold for a minute. We can do. Why don't we go ahead and meet with Denise right now? It's not
Yeah.
something that we have to wait until exactly 9 o'clock for, because this is not a public hearing. It is just informational as far as what's going to happen with insurance and coming up. So I'd like to welcome Denise Ballard with us this morning, and she's brought an associate with her as well.
Good morning.
Good morning.
One time no see in
I
person.
know. We've been down here a few times, but haven't seen you guys. We've been Scott and Melissa quite a bit.
Good.
So. let's see. This way, maybe? Yep, I got one, two.
Two different ones.
No, everything's the same. I just don't
Okay.
know who you want to share with. So.
Yeah, we'll leave them here on the table.
Hey, good morning. My name is Denise Ballard, and this is Cindy Allen. We're with IGHCP and the consultants for the trust. So we had our annual meeting in January, at which time the IGHCP board approved the Wellmark renewal. That renewal is 5.22% this year for the IGHCP trust. So that means that every group that participates in the program receives that initial 5.22% renewal. And then groups can go up or down from there based on what's going on with their own claims and plan designs and those types of things. So I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes talking about the trust, and then we'll get right into Jefferson County. So on page 2, you'll see that IGHCP is now up to 37 entities and just under 10,000 members. So that's 36 other cities and counties that are participating in IGHCP alongside Jefferson County. All groups are utilizing partial self-funding to meet the varying plan designs and offering lower administration fees on that Wellmark product. On page 3 then is a benchmark of the IGHCP renewal and comparing that to the trend in the state of Iowa. And then alongside where we ended for the IGHCP renewal in each of those years. So the trust started in 2005, and if you look through 2021, the average renewal for IGHCP members was 2.99% year over year since 2005. The trend in that same period I actually went ahead and added 2022 since we have it complete. We don't have all of the renewals done. You're our last group, so we're getting real close, but I don't have all renewals done yet for 7 of 22. But you can see through 22 for the trend and the renewal, we're at 7.87% for the trend in Iowa and just under 7 for the renewal. Last piece about the trust, then, this is looking at claims by month. So you can see in each of the months for 2021 how the trust performed. We had 3,784 city county employees covered under the program, and just again under 10,000 when you add their dependents and spouses. The claims during that period were just about 51 million, and our premium was 55.5, almost 55.6, creating that 91% loss ratio, which is hitting the IGHCP targets. Our loss ratio is where we want it to be. Now looking at Jefferson County. So this is the savings analysis going back to 2005. You guys were one of the original members in the program. So when you came into IGHCP all the way back in 2005, it created a negative 3.35% impact on your renewal from that year prior. So you had some savings coming into the trust. And then your average increase in the Wellmark premium, so this is just the Wellmark piece alone, has increased at a rate of 4.12% since 2005 year over year. The average increase in your total cost. So your total costs are going to include all premium costs, claims funding, any fees that you're paying. So everything, your complete premium using the most populated family premium has increased at a rate of 0.54% since inception. And then the data in the center of that page, you can see the benchmarks I use. So I use the total family rate for the most populated plan, and then I use that year over year to measure your premium growth. Page 6 is Jefferson County's claim. So that report I went over just a few minutes ago at the trust level. So this is for just Jefferson County. You had 80 employees participating in IGHCP in the 2021 calendar year. 159 when you add dependents and spouses. Your premium, this is just premium to Wellmark. So the Wellmark portion of your plan, you paid just over $1 million in premium to Wellmark. Wellmark paid out $985,000 in claims. So your loss ratio for the 2021 calendar year was 5%. Okay, looking on page 7, then we're going to measure your partial self-funded claims. So this is looking at the money that we pull from Jefferson County via the consolidated billing, the money that we pull to pay your claims, and then what your actual claims were, and then that's benchmarked. I just have it going back to 2011, but you can see in the most current year, that's through February of 2022. And we've received $164,000 to pay your self-funded claims, of which you've incurred $93,000 of claims. So your over under is $71,000. So we've collected from you $71,000 more than what you incurred in claims.
Mm-hmm.
So when I annualize your data, it looks like you're going to finish just under $140,000 for your partial self-fund claims for this most recent plan year. So you're trending down, your partial self-fund claims are running very good. So versus 246,000 when I annualize that same number out. So, if you finish at 139,000, look in your prior year, you were at almost 181. So you went from, you've knocked your claims down by $40,000 in this, from last year's partial self-fund utilization to this year's. So that's good. On page 8, these are your large claimants. So these are the claimants that have incurred a medical diagnosis where the amount of claim paid for that diagnosis has hit or exceeded $10,000. So once a claim hits that $10,000 threshold, we watch those claims pretty closely. Medical management, of course, gets involved. And to help you read this report, if you go 4 columns in, you'll see in the blue ribbon, it says REL, that 4th column in, REL. So then go down from there. If there's an E, that means that's an employee of Jefferson County. If it's a D, it's a dependent of an employee. And if it's an S, it's a spouse of an employee. Okay, so that kind of helps you figure out the relationship of the claim. And then from there, you can see the age band and whether or not the member is still enrolled. So if you go down just about halfway down the page, you'll see a claim for a fractured femur. And that claim incurred was $19,000, but you'll see the word cancel. So that means that member is no longer covered under your plan. So you have a couple of those. You have a type 2 diabetes also that's been canceled. So nothing really jumps out off this page at me as far as the number of claims that there are and the amount of claims. That first claim, of course, is a COVID claim. So that under normal circumstances wouldn't have even hit your plan. That's the only COVID diagnosis that hit your large claim report. So this is a copy of your receipts and disbursements report. And I just put this in here so just to jog everybody's memory that this is the kind of the accounting practice that's sent to the auditor's office on a monthly basis. EBS does consolidated billing for Jefferson County. So that means we're billing for all of your employees and the various programs that they're participating in, whether that be medical or vision or dental or the WRAP plan. We bill, we do a consolidated bill for all of the products, all of the people. This is a kind of a snapshot of that consolidated billing. So the top section of this report is going to show you by month what we've collected from the county. And then the bottom section of the report is what we did with those monies. And then the very bottom where you can see all of the account balances are, of course, your account balances. The first one being a collateral fund. That's just money that the credit card company requires be held there for to make sure there's enough money to cover the flex transactions. So if you ever close your flex account, the county will get that money back. The next one is your flex. So those are employee dollars. Those are the employee flexible spending dollars, followed by the insurance account balance. So that $87,000 number, that is your reserve for your self-funded plan. So as we process your claims, if there's a month where, let's say, your claims are high, so you give us less money than what we need, we can draw from that insurance fund to pay your partial self-funded claims. And then the last is your dental balance. Looking at your medical benefit overview, we had pretty extensive conversations with the auditor's office this year about your current plans. Do we want to consolidate them? Do we want to drop a plan? We did make a recommendation to drop the 250 and maybe move those people over to the 500.
So are we going to do that, or where are we?
At this time, they asked us to leave all plans in place.
So if we want to change it, because we talked about this a year ago and we were surprised that we haven't heard anything all that time.
Well, I work with them on a pretty regular basis. You know, I'm happy to come here anytime you want me to, but generally I'm working with the office.
Because we're not getting the information.
Okay, yeah. So if you drop the $250 deductible plan, we assume those employees will migrate to the $500 plan. Maybe, you know, they'll go to the 1,000, but unlikely. So you can easily do that still, and it won't change your premium cost because those people will still be covered. They'll just move over to the other. What it'll do though is reduce the amount of self-funding that you're doing, because you don't have to self-fund as much on plan 2 as you are on plan 1.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So do you have any ballpark on what that would be approximately?
Nothing would change. You would just drop that plan. And then those people would go over to plan 2 or the $500 plan.
How many people are in the 250?
You have 32 singles and 4 families.
On the 250 deductible plan right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And on the 500, and you'll see this on a couple of pages, but on the $500, you have 9 and 11, 9 singles, 11 families.
Give me the numbers again on
You
the
bet.
250.
32 singles and 4 families.
Okay, and then plan
9 and 11 is for the $500 deductible.
right, which you listed as plan 3.
That would be plan two, the middle plan. So plan one would be the 250.
Okay, why are they titled Plan 2, Plan
There
3,
used to
and
be a
Plan
zero.
4?
They shouldn't be, that's silly.
Okay, so that was my confusion.
I can see why, yeah.
All right, so.
Because you used to have, I think,
A zero.
as either a zero or
Oh, zero,
$100,
yeah.
yeah. So, okay, so the 250 is 32 singles, 4 families. The $500 deductible, the middle plan is 9 and 11. The $1,000 deductible plan is 9 singles and 18 families. So you have participation in each of your plans. I mean, oftentimes when we go to eliminate a plan, it's because most people have moved out of that plan, so it's kind of empty. So the decision isn't as clear here because you do have good participation. But if you did drop the 250 and left just the 2 remaining plans, of course, the amount of money that the county spends in getting from that Wellmark plan to the employee plan would go down. So you would pay less money.
Do you know how much that would be?
And I mean, we could run a report to see how many people have hit their $250 deductible that maybe wouldn't have hit the 500.
Yeah, because that's the largest number of employees that we have right now. We're in that Plan 1 group.
I guess.
You know,
going
we're talking
forward,
about 36 employees there out of the 83 employees that
Yep.
we have as total paying into this.
So their liability would go down.
We have all the risk reviews.
So 15,000, the liability goes down.
how much?
That's that.
The liability, so the amount, when we look at liability, remember, we look at the amount of how much is the out-of-pocket at Wellmark and subtract from that the employee's out-of-pocket. So the liability would reduce by $14,000 if you dropped plan, the lowest deductible plan.
Mhm. And is this something that can be done at
Anytime.
any time? Okay, so we can talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah, and we can either grab it from there before we leave and share it with you guys, or we can email it to you, but we ran all of the
Sure.
risk analysis information so you could see the, how the decision was made.
I
Mhm.
guess I'd like to see going forward that we have a joint meeting when we have some of these discussion with the auditor's office, because we're
Okay.
not getting your information. And I'd also like to request that we're like some of the first counties and not the last county that you come to.
And we
every year.
tried, there was a number of reschedulings, so.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, because we'd rather, as soon as you get it, let us know.
Yeah, we would too, for
Because this
sure.
after the budget planning stuff has got to stop.
Yeah,
Well, we start meeting, we can't meet with anybody until the
Right.
board approves it. So the board approves it in January, mid-January.
So
So,
we're still doing budget meetings then.
oh, yeah, I mean, you're our very last group. We're doing open enrollment meetings this week
No, I
so
know.
we're way, way
So
late.
next year, put us like at the top of the list.
Yep.
please.
We did, we had at least 3 cancellations, so. Where we tried to come down and we got postponed, so,
Well, and we're usually pretty flexible,
okay.
yeah.
especially with Zoom, so, you know.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yep.
So those are your 3 plan designs that are in force today. I mean, we have dropped it. At one time, you guys had 5 plans, so that's why it says 2, 3, and 4. We dropped 1 and 5.
Mhm.
But they are well populated, so it's entirely up to you. It will reduce the amount of risk because again, you're paying less in that window.
Mhm.
But the Wellmark premiums for plan at the Wellmark level, and I'll show you this in a minute, the cost of your plans are the same, whether it's the $250 deductible or it's the $1,000 deductible.
Mhm. Okay,
So looking at RAP review, real quick on page 11, and then I'll get back to the primary medical plan. We really haven't made any changes on that RAP plan. That RAP plan is there for people that opt out of your medical insurance election, but still get the allocation. So we don't see any reason to increase the RAP premiums. It's supporting itself. If you look at this year, 7/21 through 12/21, The wrap had $5,800 worth of claims, but we took in 13,000 for premium. So there's an excess that would remain with the county of that $7,000. So no need to increase that at this time. Looking at your health insurance renewal, then if you look at the top section there, the mostly yellow block, that's your current medical costs. So you'll see the highlight, the Wellmark premium is $685.22 for a single and $1,713.05 for a family. So that's the Wellmark premium, whether it's plan 1 at $250 deductible or it's the $1,000 deductible. We're buying the same Wellmark plan at all 3 levels. So that's the piece that's increasing. Your Wellmark premiums going up by 5.22%. So if we take that $685 and $1,713, the current Wellmark premium, and increase those numbers by 5.22%, you get the red number in the bottom gray. So you'll see the Wellmark premium now is $720 and $1,802. So that's the single and family premium for all 3 of your plans. And then you're going to have some partial self-fund cost, and we'll show you that on the next page, followed by your fees, your fixed cost. So when you add up your premium and your fixed cost, then you'll see the total cost of the $741 and $1,837. So that's where those are your fixed costs. Then we have the employee premium stated at $453, $1,069, so forth as you go across the page. You guys are cost sharing a portion of that premium with your employees. So the county is paying $288 on plan 1, $768 for family. You see that? So that's the employer cost share. So that's what the county is paying in premium. And then the allocation is below that. So you've got the stated employee premium of $453 and $1,069, and then you can see that is consistent across the page. And then you look at the employer cost share and then the employer allocation to get your total annual cost of the 1.172561, which is an increase in your total cost of 5.10%. So your renewal, if you make no changes, you keep all 3 plans intact and you continue the benefits as you have them today, same cost shares, you would have a 5.10% rate increase.
Okay.
So on the next page, we broke down so you could see the employer expense a little more clearly. So the top is the Wellmark premium. So this is going to be your new premiums, followed by your fixed cost to get to the premium due. And then we have the employee stated premiums. And then from there, we're looking at what your cost sharing in premiums plus the allocation to get to the monthly employer funding by plan across the page. Then you can see annually the breakdown. So the cost share and premium is the 522, the allocation is 507. And then we put in expected claims so that we can help you budget. And that's the number we've been using with Scott since probably November, I think, November, December. So he's stuck with that 150. And it came in with our budget as well, with where the IGHCP renewal came in. So if you look at a 3-year claims average, you run at about 154. We budgeted 150. You're having a good claims year, so you're running lower than what we anticipated. So we feel very comfortable with the 5.10% rate impact. And it fits in from what the auditor's office is telling us. It fits in with what was budgeted. So your dental insurance, your dental plan is running well. You have a bit of a reserve balance in your self-funded dental plan. That's with Delta Dental, and you have 3 options to choose from. No increase or rate impact at this time. So that would be a 0%. Your vision plan is also running well, and we don't have a need to increase premiums for your vision this year. So a 0% rate increase there as well. The life insurance is currently with Lincoln, and I don't know if you learned from the IGHCP meeting that we did take this out to bid. So we did look at all of our ancillary benefits that are currently with Lincoln Financial. And we came back with a recommendation to the board to switch from Lincoln to Standard. We're able to improve benefits and reduce costs. So for you, you're currently paying $2.10 per employee per month, and that provides a $10,000 life insurance benefit for all your full-time active employees. And then if the employee were to die of an accident or there's a dismemberment, that amount doubles, right, and goes to 20,000. So on the plan that we are now offering, you have the ability to continue just as you have. So you have that $10,000 life option that doubles in the event of a dismemberment or an accident. And you would go from $2.10 per person to $1.45. However, we are able to offer an in-line of duty benefit and still be under your current cost if you did want to add that. The in-line of duty benefit provides an extra layer of coverage for your sheriff's department. So for any public safety officer would get an extra $10,000. So the accident benefit, the accidental death piece has to be triggered. So the death has to be because of an accident, but if they're on the job or off the job and they die in the line of duty, that'll trigger it to a $30,000 benefit. So it'd be $10,000 if it was a regular death. If it was caused by an accident and it was in the line of duty, for the public safety officers, they'd get $30,000. The cost is $1.55 as opposed to today, $2.10.
Okay.
The last thing I'm going to add to that real quick is see that 35 cent per active employee for your EAP.
17.
Yeah, I'm still on page. Yeah, he's on the right page, I think.
I'm on 16.
Yeah, so page 17.
Okay.
Okay, so that 35 cents where it says EAP, the Employee Assistance Program.
Mhm.
Today, that's blended and built into your life insurance cost. It's not a separate line item. When we moved to Lincoln, we asked them to separate it because we have some groups that have their own EAP program and they don't want to pay for it twice, obviously.
Mhm.
So we split it up. So it's up to you if you want to offer the EAP that you are currently offering it today. So if you took the best benefit, which is the in-line of duty benefit, added the 35 cents, you're still at $1.90. Today, you're at $2.10. So even if you take the best package under the new life offering, you're still a little below where you're at today. Or you can just stay where you're at and do the EAP and the not the in-line of duty, and you're going to be at $1.80 versus $2.10. Okay.
All right.
Long and short-term disability, this is completely voluntary, but you do have employees that participate in this program. While we are moving the benefits to Standard from Lincoln, there's no rate increase for your employees and there's no change in their benefits. So we matched their benefits and their premiums so that they wouldn't have any cost increases. These are new benefits being offered under IGHCP, the critical illness, hospital indemnity, and accident. Those are all new. I have the rates behind on page 20. That's completely up to you if you want these offered to the employees or not. If you don't want them offered, we simply will remove it from their package.
Does this cost the county anything?
No.
Also, yeah, I don't care if it's offered, but I don't think the county should pay for it.
No, there's no county cost. It would all be on the employee.
I don't know. Do you have a preference whether it's offered or not?
I think it'd still be offered because it's the employee's choice as to whether they want to purchase that or not.
Are you offering anything like it today, like through another broker or anything?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, if you're not currently doing it with somebody else, you can certainly do it. If you are and it's working, you don't have to do it with us, but it is an option now and it wasn't prior. So we can confirm with the auditor's office that there's not something where we're stepping on toes. This isn't already in place.
Mhm.
And if it's not, we can move forward then.
Okay.
And then the last page is current membership. So you can see we do still have one school, but that school's been grandfathered. We're not open to new schools, and that's a well-marked decision, not an IGHCP decision. We'd certainly bring them on if we could. So yeah, so we're continuing to grow. We recently brought on our most recent, our Hardin County, City of Fort Dodge, Grimes, and Lamar's, and Des Moines Waterworks. I've been recently added.
Okay. All right.
Any questions?
Any questions from the board? No.
No, I'd just like more information sooner.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
you bet.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming in and giving us a report at this point in time. So we don't have any action we need to take right now. So thank you very much.
Yep, we need to know just for open enrollment, we're a little behind.
Right.
We're starting, everybody's open enrollment this week. So as soon as you do have a decision, if you could let us know, then we'll.
Yeah, I think
Start
we
that
can do that by next meeting.
Okay, sounds
So-
great.
That's what we're projecting. All right. And it is 9:30. Thank you. So let's go back to item number 6 that we had begun to talk about. Consider memorandum of understanding regarding reimbursement from Southeast Iowa Seal Link Mental Health and Disability Services Region for county employees, occupancy and equipment. So do you have anything on this, Dee, or on?
Yeah,
the,
this is part
Seal
of
Board
the
Committee?
legislative action that was taken last year to basically, it's an update to the current 2080 because of the legislative action to have the state take over funding. And all the people, especially I know Ryan's on, our SEAL CEO, have worked very hard to make some sense out of a new law that of course had a lot of challenges in actual implementation. So this is part of that. And I'll read this and I'm going to make some comments as we go through because I've got them highlighted, the areas, and if you've got any other questions, but there's a couple things I think we need to talk about. All the counties are doing this to update accordingly. So memorandum of understanding regarding reimbursement from Southeast Iowa Link Mental Health and Disability Services Region for county employees / occupancy / equipment. Come now, the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors here and after the board and the governing board of SEAL Mental Health and Disability Services Region here and after the governing board indicate their mutual understanding of the following. Jefferson County is a member and the county board is a signatory to a 2080 agreement for SEAL Mental Health and Disability Services Region. The purpose of this memorandum of understanding is to establish an entity to provide local access to mental health and disability services for children and adults, and to engage in any other related activity in which an Iowa 28E organization may lawfully be engaged, while in compliance with Senate File 2315, Division 4, Section 32, as assigned into law on May 25th, 2012. And that is when the regionalization actually was approved and then implemented later. Number 3, the 2080 agreement contemplates that the region's chief executive officer, executive management team, coordinators of disability services, assistant support staff, and service staff will be made up of and will remain employees of the individual member counties. Number 4, in doing so, the 2080 agreement requires that there will be a memorandum of understanding between the governing board and the individual county boards of supervisors that identify the individual employee, the position to be filled, and the portion of the employee's wages as established by the SEAL governing board and the employer county benefits that will be reimbursed to the county from the region. So basically, let's talk about that, Ryan, since we're on this. The change will be that it's state funding and it comes through the county. The county will pay it and get reimbursed, basically. Correct?
Yep, the memorandum of understanding is guidance from the state auditor's office that needs to be in place to reinsure that the state allocation goes directly into the funds of the fiscal agent, and that from the fiscal agent account, any member county that accrues any cost associated with mental health and disability services will be allocated back out to the county member so that is completely cost neutral. So any expense that the county member encumbers related to mental health and disability services is guaranteed to be reimbursed or prior paid from the region fiscal agent funds.
Okay, thank you. Number 5, in compliance with this provision of the 2080 agreement, Exhibit A is attached here to setting forth the individual Jefferson County employees, the positions they fill for the region, and the portion of their wages and benefits that are to be reimbursed to Jefferson County from regional funds. 6, in compliance with this provision of the 2080 agreement, Exhibit B is attached. Here too, setting forth the occupancy and equipment costs that are to be reimbursed to Jefferson County from regional funds. Any disagreements in reimbursement amounts shall be discussed and rectified between the governing board and county board of supervisors. In the same manner, disputes are resolved under section 4.8 of the regional 2080 agreement. Okay, I want to go to looking at these attachments.
Mhm.
So in Jefferson County, Sandy and Leah are both 100% seal. In some counties, the CDSs do some other duties. So that's what that one part was about. So for us, that's really not an issue. It'll be 100%. So I'm not going to read that whole Exhibit A thing, but that's basically, any comments there? I think it's just straightforward. And then B, equipment. I know the county has had a car that has been used that currently is owned by the county. So what we need to decide is if we're going to keep that or if still will, basically it'll still be our car, but it'll be driven for sale work. Is that the correct way to say that, Ryan?
Yeah, the vehicle is licensed and title as property of the county. It remains on the county's inventory. The region is just asking for use of the vehicle and that any cost associated with the vehicle would be reimbursed by the region fiscal agent.
Any cost that's incurred by the vehicle, you mean as far as general maintenance is concerned and overall condition, if they crash into something and it needs to be replaced, is that the county's responsibility to replace that vehicle then if we choose to go that direction? If we choose to go the other direction and make it the SEAL region's vehicle, is it then their responsibility for all of those kind of things?
So all of the above, what we have indicated is that the region at this stage of the game really does not have the capacity to license and title a vehicle because we're not necessarily a separate entity. So all of the assets that are related to MHDS actually remain assets of the county member that purchased them at this point in time. So in the event, say that the vehicle was wrecked, isn't usable anymore, the region would make a decision as to whether we would actually need a new vehicle in its replacement and or not.
And then that would be up to the county then to do that vehicle replacement and that kind of thing, correct?
So what the region would do is decide if there needs to be a vehicle replacement, come back and talk to the county member. If the county member is willing to do the replacement, cost completely absorbed by the fiscal agent.
And that discussion the board needs to have is, we do have a choice, and now's the time to make that choice.
Right, and
Whether
that's what
we
I was
keep the
trying to get at
vehicle
is some
or
more
not.
information as far as what our responsibilities are if we keep it,
It's-
or
it's
what
our
our
decision.
responsibilities are
So
if we don't.
if we decide to keep the vehicle, basically, Sandy and Leo would be paid mileage by the region, correct?
Correct.
Okay. They would be paid mileage by the region
By the region.
for use of the county vehicle. No,
For use of their own vehicle.
for their own vehicles. Okay. All right, just want to make sure we're all on the same playing field here, that somebody wasn't using something and then getting reimbursed twice for the use of it. And so, all right. So do we need to take official action on this right now?
We need to decide now if we're gonna keep the car or if we're going.
Can I ask a question?
Sure,
Yeah.
Pat, go ahead.
When we talk about the expenses associated with the vehicle are reimbursed 100%, and I see that in the memorandum of understanding.
Right,
Are we talking about liability? I mean, if the county is the titled owner and there's an accident or some issue there and, results in a huge claim or a lawsuit or some combination, are we reimbursed for all that by Seal? And if not, why don't we just, if we want Seal to continue to use it, why don't we just sell it to them and eliminate that liability?
Right,
we don't know. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, any cost that's associated with that vehicle and MHDS, that cost will be absorbed by the region.
So that means what Pat said, if there was a liability claim of some sort on it, then that would be reimbursed by the Seal region.
Correct.
Does Seal pay the insurance premium if we get sued for our attorneys?
Seal will absolutely pay the insurance premium, yes, to the county. So yeah, any cost associated, it's very clear in the legislation that the county can absorb any cost associated with MHDS, and likewise, the region is not to absorb any cost associated with the county. If that vehicle is ours, but it's still licensed and titled in Jefferson County, any cost associated that the region will be on the hook for.
Okay,
Okay.
is that what you were looking for, Pat?
Not really what I'm looking for. It's information for you.
Yes,
But I appreciate the answer.
well, and the other part of this discussion is when we were doing budget planning, we became aware that we might have another department that needs a car. So looking at the overall cost to the budget and the people of this county, does it make sense to keep this car for that department? Because either way, Seal's gonna pay mileage, so that's not an issue, so. Thoughts?
So do we have a recommendation from any of the three of us as far as which direction we want to go? I mean, you're the one that works the
Well,
closest
I
to the
just-
Seal region.
Well, with Seal, it's a non-issue. I mean,
Right.
the employees are gonna get either mileage or they're gonna have the car to drive. I'm just wondering if we want to keep the car for that other department, is that gonna save us money in the long run? I don't know, because it's a, 2014 car or something? It's a.
It is, but it was purchased through mental health funds. That you need to also be aware of. Mental health bought it, and mental health has maintained it all these years.
But the county's paid like insurance and stuff on it,
County only paid insurance on
so.
And we would be basically doing the same thing, except they would be paying the insurance on it.
it.
No,
Correct.
no. Yes,
Correct.
The auditor's office sends them
The,
insurance.
I mean,
Yeah.
it comes out of your line item every,
Not on July 1st. It's part of our new budget. So you're correct, there, on July first, we'll assume the insurance.
Okay,
So that's the only thing,
It's
with mental health purchasing the vehicle and we've maintained the vehicle. It's just a wash as to the insurance, it's a minor expense that you have paid for, but now we'll assume that cost.
Okay, one more question, Ryan.
Mhm.
And I think we alluded to this, but I just want to make sure I understand. So let's say the car, it's old, but how many miles does that have on it?
70.
70. Oh,
Not
it should
quite.
last for a while.
yeah,
I think so.
But let's say something happens and it's a major expense or it's not worth fixing. So then at that point, we choose not to replace it. That's not an issue, correct?
Not an issue at all.
Because there's always mileage. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Susie, thoughts? I don't have any strong preference.
I don't either.
I don't have a preference one way or another. I would make a motion that we continue to keep the car
Okay,
then.
I'll second it.
In this case. So I have a motion from myself, a second from Sandquist to keep the car with Jefferson County rather than turning it over to the Seal region.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Is that what
Yep,
you
that's
understood?
fine.
Okay.
As proposed,
Well, it sounds to me like if the county keeps it, it's still getting all of the money back from the Seal region for expenses and insurance and everything else.
so that's what I'm saying. As
Why doesn't it make sense then for the county to keep the vehicle rather than turning it back over to the region and then having to maybe
Well,
do
yeah.
something different in the future?
Well, we keep the car anyway because the region can't own equipment like that. So yeah, so let's
Mhm.
clarify. What you're saying is we keep things as is, basically.
That's basically what I'm saying, yes.
Yes. Okay. So we're all in understanding.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Right?
Aye.
Okay, so we need to approve this. I just want to be clear on the card. So I'll make a motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding regarding reimbursement.
Okay,
Second that motion.
I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish to approve the memorandum of understanding regarding reimbursement from Southeast Iowa Seal Mental Health and Disability Services Region for county employee occupancy and equipment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Okay,
Okay, we'll move on to number 7 now, which is a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County approving Southeast Iowa Seal Link Region 28E. So our resolution reads, whereas the Iowa legislature has passed and the Iowa governor has signed Senate File 619, an act relating to mental health and disability services to administer and distribute state appropriations in connection with the Mental Health and Disability Services Region Service Fund. And whereas Iowa Code 331 expresses the intent of the legislature that mental health and disability services shall be provided by counties operating together as regions, and whereas the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors has participated in the initial Seal 28E agreement as a member county, and whereas the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors has been engaged in the development of the Seal Region 28E amended documents, and whereas the County of Des Moines, Henry, Jefferson, Keokuk, Lee, Loiza, Van Buren, and Washington have completed the 28E agreement amended documents with unanimous approval and satisfaction from Seal Governing Board Directors. Be it resolved that Jefferson County approves the Seal Mental Health and Disability Services Region amended 28E be it further resolved that Jefferson County hereby authorizes the Sandquist Board of Supervisor Governance Board designate to authorize and sign the finalized amended 2080 agreement on the behalf of Jefferson County.
Okay, we have some questions for Pat and Ryan. So Pat, that means this fourth amended and restated 2080 agreement is all included in this resolution, is that correct?
That's what it sounds like.
Okay, so there was one more. Where does it talk about space, Ryan?
That was in the MOU.
Okay. So the other thing that I'm going to jump back to that just for the sake of discussion, because I talked to Ryan about this. We are in the process of space planning. We don't know the timeline. So if we, in there, it's a 6-month, I believe, notice. Can we make a note now just to say at some point, we don't know the timeline? The office will move, or how should we handle that?
I think that in the event of any kind of modification that needs to be made, the region is absolutely, willing to have that conversation and proceed with modifications of the MOU as deemed appropriate.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County approving the Southeast Iowa Link Region 2080?
I'll make it. Okay, Susie made a motion. I'll second it. I do have a question for Pat. Pat, you and I have had some discussion about, let me look at this one. The Henry County Auditor, is that a testing, or since this is the 2080, it looks like each county's on that?
Mm-hmm. Which document are you referring back to?
One of them had
The 2080.
the 2080, and the question I believe was, why was the Henry County Auditor doing this as opposed to Jefferson County? Can you answer that, Ryan?
Yeah, what we have done with the initial as well as all of the amended 2080s, we have an addis from the Henry County Auditor's Office come over to just be the notary on the document, so that way we didn't have 8 different auditors' offices trying to send to the governing board to take care of everything. So we just centralized it, since we're located in Henry County for our governing board meetings, that the Henry County Auditor's Office becomes that notary for us to be the addist on the finalized document.
Okay.
Are you meeting in person or Zoom?
In person.
Okay. And so do you normally have everybody attend?
We have a mix. It changes. Signatories on the 2080 agreement. Most of the Board of Supervisors attend in person. There's a few that don't attend that use Zoom, but the majority, what we're asking is all of our board members, whoever is identified as the signatories for the 2080, meet in person this Wednesday.
Okay. Okay. It just seemed odd to me because, Dee can sign it now, right? She just got authority to sign it. She can sign it now.
Yeah,
So why
once
didn't she sign it?
this resolution is passed, we've got a motion and a second on the floor to pass it right now, but the vote hasn't been called for. And
Well, correct. Assuming if the vote passes, she can sign it now.
Mhm.
So why wouldn't she just sign it and bring it with her?
We've just never done it that way, in all honesty. We've just always had it that we passed the resolution that they could be the signatory, and then we did everything all at once with all of the governing board signatories and the governing board itself, with Henry County being the addist. There would be nothing that would would indicate that she couldn't serve it, go ahead and be the signature on that. We just have never done it that way.
And I mean, legally, it doesn't make a difference, but I was asking Dee, I said, so what happens if you can't make the meeting? Or somebody from someplace else, Louisa County or wherever, and do they have to drive to Henry County to sign it? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But it's not the way I would write my document, but it's certainly not a legal issue. So
Believe me, Pat, we have had those concerns. I mean, that's why we're identifying, because we do have folks that are not able to participate, that the signatory is not someone that generally sits on the governing board structure because of that. Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of passing this resolution, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. D, go ahead and sign. Do you need 2 copies of this, Abby? Okay, I'll give you one.
I can sign one there too.
Mhm. We aren't to public comment yet, so we've already passed the resolution and all of that.
How this impacts the 2080, the Vanderbilt County.
It doesn't.
There isn't one now.
Everything's, everything's.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to consider resolution to hire 1 law enforcement canine.
Yes, at the last meeting, we hired Tyler Risdam as deputy sheriff. So this is resolution to formally add the canine Psy to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Tyler is the canine handler.
Okay. Are we paying the dog business?
Yes, yes.
It was nice.
It just makes it official.
Now, the maintenance fund and everything that was where it was at previously for taking care of the dog. I mean, vet in town
I
takes
think
care
that
of the dog and
all that
that-
remains the same.
all that remains the same. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we have a resolution in front of us that says, whereas, let me make sure I'm reading the correct one here. Yes. Whereas Iowa Code Section 331.903 states that the number of deputies, assistants, and clerks for each office shall be determined by the board, and the number and approval of each appointment shall be adopted by the resolution recorded in the minutes of the board. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff desires to hire 1 law enforcement canine effective April 1st of 2022, therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County, Iowa, that the Jefferson County Sheriff is authorized to hire 1 law enforcement canine Psy. Is that the name of the dog?
Correct.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Resolution is passed. All right, so we're going to move on here to consider resolution for step increases for 3 correctional officers.
Number 9.
Oh, number 9. Oh, sorry, I did. I struck through that one too early. Consider resolution to hire Gavin Stanley Heckathorn as a correctional officer in the sheriff's office.
Okay, I brought Gavin with me today to introduce him. So he's excited. He brought you donuts today. So a little bit.
Thanks, Susie, for that one, getting that word out early.
Little something about Gavin. He was born and raised in Jefferson County. He's attended Fairfield schools. He's currently in the criminal justice program at Indian Hills. He has been our intern at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office for up to 2 months. How long you been there? Around
You
2
just started
months.
during the farm show. I think you just started.
So he's been with our deputies, he's been in our jail, and we've recently hired him as a correction officer. A few things that he's put down, he knows what the job requires. He wants to help his community in any capacity. He has good social skills, gets along with people well. He's the first person in his family to be in the criminal justice field. So congratulations, Gavin. He knows Jefferson County well. And what he's learned from his internship is he knows that the people who work there are easy to get along with. So.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish, to approve the hire of Gavin Stanley Heckathorn to the position of correctional officer for the Jefferson County Board, Jefferson County. His starting salary will be at $36,305, which is not full salary. He has his probationary period to go through before his salary is moved to full pay. So we have resolution here that says, whereas Iowa Code 331.903 states the number of deputies, assistants, and clerks for each office shall be determined by the board, and the number and approval of each appointment shall be adopted in resolution recorded in the minutes of the board. Okay, so whereas Jefferson County Sheriff desires to hire one correctional officer effective April 5th of 2022 with a beginning salary of $36,305. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County that the Jefferson County Sheriff is authorized to hire one correctional officer, Gavin Stanley Heckathorn. Be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County, Iowa, that Gavin Stanley Heckathorn's salary is started at $36,305 per year effective April 5th, 2022. So I have a motion and a second on this.
Question.
Yes.
Is this another hire or you're replacing somebody?
Replacing someone, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a motion and a second on this. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Hey, thank you. Okay. All right, we'll move on to consider resolution for step increases for 3 correctional officers in the sheriff's office. We have a resolution in the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, whereas Iowa Code Section 331.903 states that the number of deputies, assistants, and clerks for each office shall be determined by the board, and the number and approval of each appointment shall be adopted by a resolution recorded in the minutes of the board. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff desires to step increase one correctional office salary to full pay thereof, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County, Iowa, that the Jefferson County Sheriff is authorized to step increase the salary of Correctional Officer Carter John Spalla. Be it resolved also by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County, Iowa, that Carter John Spalla salary step increases from $36,304.86 to full pay of $42,711.75 per year effective April 1st of 2022. Now, he's completed his
1 year
probationary period of a year, and so now his salary can be moved to that full amount that was budgeted for. So I would make a motion to approve this resolution.
Can we do all three of these at the same time?
Okay, let me find out who the other two are. And yeah, so does that make it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can go ahead and do all of these. This second one is be it resolved with the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County, Iowa, that Dakota Lee LaRue, excuse me, sorry about that, Dakota, step increases from $35,593 to $36,305 per year effective April 1st of 2022. And we also have it, be it also resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County, Iowa, that Robbie Donovan Smith salary step increases from $35,593 to $36,305 per year effective April 1st of 2022. So this motion would include all three of these officers for their step increases. Okay, we have a motion to approve by Sandquist, a second by Drish. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Hey, thank you. Okay, so we will move on to discuss and consider suspension of property taxes. Now, last week, we were approached by a gentleman who actually resides in Canada and had been there through quarantine of COVID and had missed doing some paperwork that he needed for a tax reduction. And that was explained to him fully by the treasurer that you cannot do something like that retroactively. And since you missed that date, you were due and owing all of the taxes that were considered on the property at that time. The treasurer has come in and told me that all of those taxes have been paid at this time. And I notice our gentleman is not on the call with us this morning. I sent him a link to this Zoom meeting telling him that he could address us about this issue if he wanted, but he has chosen not to, it looks like, since he has went ahead and paid everything to this point. So I would say that this is a matter that we don't really need to take under any consideration at this time. So then we'll move on to discuss and consider grant opportunities. I think you wanted that on
Yeah, I
here,
don't
Dee.
have anything tangible. I just want to get that on our radar. I got the Hunger Dialogue group together last week to see how food insecurity is going. Had a really good turnout. I'm gonna talk to Area 15 today to see if some of the CDBG grants will still work for that or not. I don't know. There's so many different grants going and they all have different requirements. It's kind of a maze out there. So just wanted to. let you
So it
know.
sounds like you're still going to continue to
Yeah,
work on it
everything
as you have been. So, okay, I appreciate you doing that for us, Dee, and it would be nice to be able to get in on some of this grant money while it's out there. After all, it is our tax dollars, and having it come back to Jefferson County rather than going to another county pleases me greatly anytime that we can do that. So, all right. Let's see. We have meet with Aaron Quaker, the city administrator, coming up here at 10:15. Do we have any committee reports that need to be made?
No.
We had EMA, gosh, when was it, March 29th? And there's gonna need to be, what, up to $22,000 on sirens purchased. There is, that's a nuisance report there. Yeah, we all got a question about somebody about the AT&T tower, and then we found out last week, I got an email that some cement pourings have taken place that the guy that contacted us didn't know about, so I
Okay,
passed that on, that's all I know.
all
But
right.
since we don't have zoning, that's not,
Yeah,
anything we
there's
act on.
nothing we can act on and nothing we can do with it with no zoning in place. So I didn't have any committee meetings last week. We'll have a committee meeting this Wednesday with the Rust Board coming up. So I'll be over there in Mount Pleasant for that. At this point in time, do we have any public comments from anyone in the room here or anyone that's still online with us? We have Tammy from the radio station, Marianne Nordyke, Tom Drish, Deb Book, Pat McVan, and Chris Estel on with us via Zoom this morning.
Yeah, I just might mention because.
Yeah, if you would, please.
Because Dee brought it up about the CDBG grants, and I'm assuming that maybe you're aware that Fairfield got an $85,000 grant through CDBG for gardening.
right,
And yeah, so I just want to make sure that y'all knew about that.
Mhm.
We met, I think Monday night last week with, Bob Ferguson and Faith Reeves and Gal
we have flyers on it.
to pull together, go through a list of groups that we want to invite. And I think that meeting's going to be the 19th, where we can talk to some heads of groups like CETA, Agency on Aging, different groups that might have clients that might want to participate in this. There basically is three big things. Education, and they'll be taping all the education things, so those can be reused, and plant starts, and then a garden library, lending library. So
is this supposed to read that this beautiful new project was created to support low and medium individuals? Should be low to medium income individuals? How do you determine what a low and medium individual is? And that's what I was.
All these
curious.
grants.
So,
yeah, I haven't seen that document actually, so that's fine.
yeah, it's in the first
Yeah.
paragraph up there.
Yeah, Barbara
somebody
passed it
missed
out
that.
at the 100 dialogue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so I just wanted to share that because
Who's the coordinator that was hired?
I don't know that they have one yet.
Oh.
Yeah, I heard they did, but I.
Yeah, I think one's been hired.
But I have not been notified yet, so I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can I take this, Darren?
Yeah, you can have
And
that.
I'll share it with them.
Sure.
It sounds like you already know, but I just thought I'd give you an update.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's move on to allow claims and approve reports.
Mhm.
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Drish to allow claims and approve reports. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Discuss and consider nuisance properties. You said you had something on
I
that.
don't
You
have
were,
anything tangible. I had some comments just from public about keeping the ordinance, and I said, we're not that far yet, so we don't know what we're doing.
okay, because other than that, I have nothing
Okay.
further than what we discussed 2 weeks ago at our meeting with the one property that we seem to be having a continual problem with. So we can move on from that. It's almost 10:15. I think we
Let's
can
take a
go ahead and take a 5-minute break to get us to 10:15, and then we'll talk to Aaron Koiker, the city administrator. So if you guys all want to hang on for a little bit and be a participant in this discussion, stay on, and we will return in 5 minutes. Okay.
Thank you, Connie.
So do we have everyone back then? All right, it is 10:14. I'm going to go ahead and we will now meet with City Administrator Aaron Quaker.
Well, thank you for giving me some time to talk with you all. After the letter that Dee sent to the city council on March 17th, I thought it was a good idea to sit down and look at some facts. I know the supervisors, or at least some of the supervisors, feel that the costs of the dispatch center are shared equally. I understand that, but as we sit down and put it all on a spreadsheet, which of course is the dollars and cents that was given to me by Dee, it really doesn't come out that way. And the city pays on average I would say over the last 7 years, about $300,000 more each year. Going into the past, that's probably a little bit smaller number, somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000, and going into the future, that's going to continue to happen. So the burden on the city citizens for this service is considerable. And I think it's only fair that, or I don't like the word fair. It's only equitable that the county residents pay in some of that. And that's why I thought if we put the numbers together, instead of talking about feelings, talk about facts. This is important. When we met for mediation, there was actually a lot of things that the county and the city agreed upon. One of the most important things was it would cost considerably more to every taxpayer if there were 2 dispatch centers, if this 28E falls apart. The dollars that were talked about in Dee's letter as tax relief, that was not meant to be, it was actually a misspoken term. We're asking for some payment for the service to balance the service out. This is not to say that you're raising taxes on county residences, because the city residents are already paying a higher portion of those services. So it's kind of a word game to say that tax relief on the city to city would be a heavy burden on the county. So I don't think we're really overburdening county citizens for paying for a service that they should be paying for already. Not to mention that there's city citizens, or there's small municipal citizens that aren't paying a dime for county services or for dispatch services, that aren't paying anything. So I guess if you wanted to discuss the spreadsheet the way I presented it to you, if you had any questions regarding that, that's all I have, other than at the last paragraph, it said the county has offered to employ dispatch personnel directly as employees of the county sheriff's office, operating equipment owned by the county with costs shared between the city and the county. There was a request for written documentation as to what more detail to what that would be back in January, and we've never received that.
Actually, I wrote a document that said that everything was pretty much going to stay the same thing with the dispatch personnel, but that seemed to be not acceptable. You wanted to throw in another 300,
no,
so much money to go along with that as a payment.
No, we were asking for how the transition would work. We were asking for document information like that.
Okay.
So I guess go back to the minutes and look at that. We have never received anything since January 1 as far as written documentation there.
No, we haven't really had much meetings since then either.
Right, but that's what we've been waiting for.
Okay.
We've talked about that at least several meetings. So
I would love to.
I don't know, every time we talked to you, numbers change, and I just think
I'm
We
using your
need to-
numbers on that.
a fair offer. I mean, we're willing
What-
to do dispatch
So-
and
So explain to me something. The county does not, or the city doesn't feel comfortable giving over dispatch to an individual that does not report to you, does not report to another board. So,
but
and he's also
he
also
reports
been,
to all the people of Jefferson County as do all the elected officials.
right, but it's also been, I'm not gonna have anybody tell me how to run my service. He's violated the 28E. And how would that benefit our city citizens if we can't have a service or have any say in how that service works?
Yes,
Same
Well,
as
let's
what-
not
it's
guess.
Same as county residents don't have a say really in the service and how the service works at this point in time. Regardless of what Doug Flournoy has said in the past, that
I don't want to
because
talk about Doug.
the board has autonomous control over what happens with that. And that board would be the emergency management board. It's still, I don't quite understand really, other than feelings and emotions of people in your department showing through right now. You know, and you preface this as not looking at feelings or emotions, but then bring that up as far as what you had just said about the county sheriff and what he is saying or going on with out there. I understand that there was a potential violation of the 28E that went on when toilet paper was taken out of bathrooms and those kind of things. And that should not have taken place. But it seems like that's childish on both sides when it comes to a lot of things that have been going on. We've also found that it's rather childish that at your council meetings, it was recommended to not increase money to go to the emergency management board for the change in population, or the change in dollar amount per population from 1 to 2. It was stated at a council meeting. It is, but it all seems to be interrelated because it all comes back to the only way that the city sees being able to pay for all of this is through an emergency management levy. So it is all pertinent to this discussion. And it's still the county's position that we don't want to have an emergency management levy that would pay for dispatch. Now, if an emergency management levy was put into place, that it would just go straight to emergency management of say 4 or 5 cents per 1,000 on property taxes here in the county. That might be something that the board may consider, but if we didn't have any sort of agreement in place that said that's all it's going to be, and that there is not going to be anything thrown in on top of it at a later date, in order to be more equitable to everybody in the county, it just doesn't add up. I mean, it really doesn't. So
That's fine. I don't care what you guys decide with the EMA levy.
okay, well,
The
we did-
EMA
we
levy,
did
however,
get-
is not under your purview. You don't have
No,
control over that.
No, it's under
So,
the EMA board.
Correct. So during our negotiations, we asked D to come back to the supervisors and say, listen, we would be okay with money being put away in a sinking fund or in an obligated reserve fund.
And that's what we put in
Okay.
our letter to the city.
Correct. We also asked D to ask the two of you if you would consider giving us some money because of the inequitability between the cost of the service. I've been at every meeting since our mediation. Has that happened?
No.
Okay,
We
so-
have not discussed that in this particular board meeting time slot.
Okay, so we're trying to, we thought And quite frankly, that I would say, saying, yes, put some money in an obligated reserve and stuff, and it is a negotiation point or an agreement from our part. Also giving something. Whereas your stance has been, we're not going to pay anything. We're not going to do anything for this, period. And that money's ours. You can't tell us how to spend it. How does that sound like a partnership?
Our stance is we are more than willing to take over the employment of dispatch personnel. And that is far preferable to spend county resident money on a county-wide service rather than paying cash to the city. I think.
So when
every
you pay
time-
money to the library, what's the difference there?
Do you want us to cut that down? Part of it's required by law.
You're right. Part of it is.
Right.
You already cut
So
it down last
39
year.
39,000, we did that 3 years ago. As a matter of fact, we went from 67,000 to 60,000.
That's my point, though. You don't get upset about paying for, you don't say, here, we're going to pay $60,000 to the library. But yet, well, if we have to pay for personnel, we need to control it for the dispatch center.
We're talking about apples and oranges. So those are different things. All
I
wanna
wouldn't
say-
disagree. It's still a payment to the city. You also wanted us to take over the EMS service for the entire county. And there no
That
problems.
never went anywhere.
You're correct. It didn't.
So that's fine. It's working. All I want to say in this is during mediation, we felt pretty good when we went to lunch. We said, sure, we know we're going to have a huge tower expense. But every time we sit down with you, you change the numbers. You want more, you want more. Then you said, instead of 200, then it was 300. Oh, we'll put that away. Then it was, oh, by the way, pay us $106,000.
You know, that was all negotiations.
And then, oh, by the way, well, maybe we'll take 86. Every time it changes, we have made a more than fair
So,
offer to
Okay.
employ dispatchers. And the bottom line is the same to taxpayers, whether it's this, we just feel it has.
so how do you
Better
address,
candidate.
if it goes to the sheriff's office, how do we address any of our concerns if there's I don't know if there will be, quite frankly, but if there's an issue with service, how do we address that?
Pat, do you have any comments with that? I see you're on. I don't know. I suppose you come to us. That's where.
You have no
everybody else-
control over the sheriff.
Depends what kind of concerns they'd be. It's like if we had some department head that's elected doing something. that was
Again, the
illegal.
sheriff isn't necessarily
Who-
obligated to what you do. He's obligated to show up one day a year.
Well, I know he shows up a lot more.
I'm not accusing him of
No, I
not
know.
doing that.
As
but
are we.
You all don't have authority over the sheriff.
Right?
So
That's
how
how
does that
county
benefit the citizens of Fairfield?
Aaron, that's how county government's set up. So if you want to change that, you
Right.
got to go to the legislature. And I believe that's also in the constitution of the state. It's been that since the state was started.
So why would we want to give up some of our control on how that service is run?
Because currently there's 8 people in the sheriff's employees that used to work for the city of Fairfield. There were 9, but they had 1 retirement.
Correct.
I don't know. The county's a
And
good place to work.
Who wouldn't want to get an extra $10,000 a year, a free take-home car, and less work? So I understand what you're saying. I felt that you should look at the numbers, but apparently you don't want to. So thank
Well,
you.
here's the thing, if we're gonna include dispatch numbers in this, then we need to start including more of the
I
overall
took your
cost.
numbers, Dee.
Overall cost of the building. now.
The overall cost of the building is shared by the 28E. Those large numbers, like the air conditioner, the pavement, was all part of the original loan
Right.
which was shared by local option sales tax by both the county and the city. So that was already shared by everybody.
Right.
The payment for any of the building is already shared.
If you guys want to. Now you've turned down wanting to share costs on.
No, that's not the fact. The fact is you didn't present it to the board, to our county city council, did you? You just said, here's a bill. Don't you think that should be a discussion, especially when it's 20-some thousand dollars?
I believe that's a discussion at the other boards meeting, the service agency board.
Correct.
Meeting.
And that was the discussion. Why didn't you bring this to us before you spent the money?
We had brought that before we spent the money.
What happened was Bart gave a presentation. This needs to happen at some point in time.
Okay.
Right? That's what was presented.
And the cost of what was going on with it and how
So
it was going to be done.
So when you do
and
that,
it
then
was
you'd have to
needed.
say, okay, we're going to do this now. Okay, so now we got to present that so that we can talk about that. Don't you think that's a fair way to do that?
Yeah, it is. And I thought we talked about that at a
But-
service agency meeting, and then the service agency was supposed
But
to
you
take
didn't.
action on it. And the
You
service
didn't do that.
agency did not, because it ended in a 2-2 tie vote.
That's not what you did.
Well,
It's not what you did.
I really would like you to consider our offer to employ
Then
the
then-
dispatchers.
We would consider something. I don't know if we would ever consider the sheriff. But you can present that in writing to the city. Give us a detailed plan, not just, we'll take everything over here. That's what you gave us the last time, and you gave us the
Well,
day of
tell
the
us-
meeting to look at it.
Every time we give you something in writing, then you want something else.
Well,
Tell us a
Here-
template, fill in the blanks. This
I
is
can't
what we
do
wanna
that
know.
because I don't know what the council wants to know. But if
Ask
you,
them and then
well,
we'll answer it.
how about you give me something in writing more than the day before a meeting so that they can look at it? Just like you were not happy, I sent you that spreadsheet on a Friday afternoon for a Monday
Right.
morning meeting.
Right.
Give us something in writing in advance to look at so that we can respond.
But find out first what they want to know. Because
I
we
will be happy to do that for you.
said over and over, we have to follow the law, which we all know.
Mhm.
And you presented it at one of the service agency meetings.
all I
It's probably
presented
in the
was
minutes.
the fact that we were going to take over the personnel in the same positions that they currently have.
We had the
at
same positions, but they had.
salaries and all of that. Okay, now,
Do we just write that?
do we have to write down
Well,
that,
how does it transition if those employees have to resign and then reapply? How does that work?
they would, and that's
Okay, so
already been
don't tell me.
stated at several meetings that you were in attendance
Yes,
with as
I
well,
understand that.
and you guys rejected that.
We didn't reject anything. We asked for more information. And I will go back to Paul and Doug and ask, what exactly information did you want?
Yeah,
But we
Yeah,
did
that
not
would be,
reject
that
anything.
would,
because I
That
don't
would be
know what
great.
more there is to say. It's like we follow the law and we follow hiring
Yeah.
procedures.
right. Which means that current employees in that department, if they're gonna be taken over by a different entity, have to be terminated from where they're at and then hired based off of the hiring practices that the county has to follow, which means put out a job
You know,
description,
Darren, I
and
appreciate what you're
postings
saying,
and all of
But you
that.
don't have to preach to me about it.
Well,
What I'm
it
asking-
seems that
No,
I
no, no.
do.
What I want is something in writing.
Okay.
Everything we've done, we've given you in writing. I haven't seen Dee work on a budget. I haven't seen you work on a budget. I haven't seen either of you work on a capital
Brad and
improvement
I
plan.
worked on budgets.
I
I haven't
gave you a
seen-
capital improvement plan and you added more dollars to it.
From the expenses that were off the,
Right,
past.
and that's, no, the future
What
expenses
dollars
coming
did I
up.
add to
We had a future presentation of
of the radio, which was about a $3 million presentation from Essex or Motorola. And that was a presentation from Motorola. If you put together a capital improvements plan, I'd like to see it because I don't recall it.
Okay. Here. Is Pat still on?
Yes.
Pat, this is Susie, and I have a question. A couple months ago, maybe three, however long it's been going on, maybe it was last fall. We talked about grandfathering in versus the laying off and rehiring of folks. Now, have we received, what's your opinion on that? And before you answer, I will tell you, when I worked for the state of Iowa and they took over my program from Indian Hills Community College, or gave it to Indian Hills Community College, I was grandfathered in. So I just wonder, is that possible? Because I guess I feel if that could happen, at least the 7 employees that are involved might feel a little more relaxed as opposed to all the stuff that's going on.
So
Okay, go ahead.
I had stepped away a little, Susie, so I haven't listened.
I have to do that again?
The presentation, but I have not done any research or looking into that issue. If that conversation happened, I'm guessing that happened with Chauncey.
It did, and he checked with Jack, and I think it's because it's different entities where you were the same one, weren't you?
I was at the state, and the program
Okay. I don't know,
switched from
maybe the laws
state.
have changed. Jack just told
October
us.
1st, 1983, I became an employee at Indian Hills Community College because of that, just grandfathered us in.
Oh, so that's been a while. Maybe it's changed. I don't know.
What do you mean it's been a while?
All I know is Chauncey did check into
Yeah.
that, and he was told we had to, what we've said, they leave one
I
position.
wish
and
Chauncey
go
was
to
here
the
because
next
I'd like
one.
to know who he spoke
So
to
I'm looking
about
to see
that.
if I've got those notes in here.
So on February 3rd, I sent an email through Tammy Jones, who is the chairperson of the service agency, facility plan estimates for fiscal year 23 through fiscal year 25. Those included parking lot reconstruction of 3 different areas. Fiscal year 23, we were going to propose an area of approximately 8,000 square feet of existing concrete removal, flat work, and curb and gutter for $70,000. Area 1 also included 770 square feet of flat work replacement, $7,300. Area 1, 372 lineal feet of curb and gutter replacement at a cost of $16,700. Year 1 total parking lot replacement of $94,000. Fiscal year 24, parking lot reconstruction, area 2, 1,360 square feet of existing concrete parking area, tear out and replacement, $11,900.
Flip your Zoom around so they can see.
Sure.
Is that part of your spreadsheet?
Wasn't that part of the capital improvement plan that I had put together?
I didn't see it in that. You had just handwritten a note
I think I
on
put-
this after you printed it out that said you wanted an extra so much money in there for dispatch.
In the spreadsheet that we put together, and then with the spreadsheet that we gave there at the last meeting. We didn't talk about, that capital improvement does not include personnel ever.
No, it does
So,
not. It just.
If I remember right, I think I put all the concrete work in one line item or kind of broke it up, but I also added other things that meant working with the building, which went back on history.
Which is not what you were asking for. This is
capital
what
improvement
you were
plan.
asking and I provided.
Okay,
So
you
don't
provided
tell
me a
I did
capital
not
expenditure.
provide
I don't recall that email, but because that was
Well-
back in February, which obviously was information I used. but that's capital, that's a capital expense for
Right.
concrete improvement, but that's not a capital expenditure plan.
Well, it is if it's broken out into 3 fiscal
one
years, which
But
it
that's,
is,
that's
but it's also part of the capital improvement for the law center
Correct.
itself that it needs to be done.
But that's not the only thing that needs to be done to that building.
No, and
So that's not
we
the whole
can't,
thing. Right?
you would if there's things that come up all the time out
Correct.
there.
But you go back in
And you
history and look
cannot
at it.
always predict
Correct.
when that's going to happen and when it's not.
Correct. But you
That's
have to
the
put,
part of a capital improvement program that you need to be able to, if for some reason something pops up and you feel that you cannot spend the $94,000 for parking lot improvements, but you need to divert that money to some other major expense, you can do that. That's what a future plan is all about. Okay, so right now we know what are some things that are needed in the future coming up here real soon. And that was what was put into this 3-year plan, not a full 5-year plan or 10-year plan like Doug was asking for, because you can't even do a 10-year plan on a road program. You see that in your road projects program through the city with the money that you get from your secondary road fund and how it's appropriated each year. Your engineer keeps that in flux, moving some things out farther and bringing some things up closer and shifting that all the time by the priorities that come up at the moment. Okay,
correct.
that's how a 5-year facilities plan would work.
Correct.
Okay, it's not something set in stone that in fiscal year 23, you're gonna do this, because that's not how it works.
Correct.
So all you're doing is using this as a proposed budgeting tool to come up for your fiscal year that you're looking at.
Correct.
Okay, so to say that you look at the past to see what's going on, which was something that was never wanted by the committee members on your side at the service agency, because we had those documents, they were all thrown back at us at a particular moment in time in a meeting saying, this is not information we were looking for. We don't want past history. We want everything in the future. So how do you do that? How do you?
Let me ask you, the spreadsheet that Aaron gave,
That's just personnel costs.
Right, it's just dispatch personnel costs
okay,
over
so
time.
that's just,
Along with equipment
Right.
costs over time.
okay, so, but y'all understood where all these numbers came from and how he got to those.
Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
I just wanted to.
I understand that.
Okay.
Well, let's be clear on current budget year. We are through 9 months of the budget already. I'm nearing $470,000 in operating. The city has put up 56,000 through 9 months. You probably won't reach 75,000 for the year. You were under 92,000 last year, and I exceeded $1 million in operating. I included no salary and benefit package. So
Operating-
let's not BS the public's trust anymore. They gotta
Operating as far as
understand,
what,
and I
Gentlemen,
take care of everybody.
Let's
in
keep
this
our
country.
voices calm.
Operation costs as far as what? Is that dispatch cost or are you talking the sheriff's office?
Everything.
Well, that's a different animal. I understand that. I get that.
But you wanna come to this meeting and bully the 3 supervisors and
bullying
talk
them.
down about the sheriff.
I'm not talking
And
bad
I'm
about
taking
you
care
either.
of everybody in the county. I don't care if they live in Fairfield or not.
This isn't very productive. So,
Okay, can I
So-
follow up with some, answer some questions? So I found my notes. And once again, because city employees could not transfer to county because they're different government entities, that's like a national labor law, because we're different government entities. So we'd have to post new positions. They could apply. And so that's how that legally has to be handled. the other thing is, I know you were asking a while about the operation policies, and we did some research there. Jerry talked to Shannon about if there was a policy regarding dispatch management and personnel. The only things the General Order 86, which is a standard operations, would also adopt that policy. Let's see, what else was there? Oh, the other thing, and Pat, oh, he's not on anymore.
No.
I don't have an employee handbook handy, but it seems to me, as we have in there, if there's disagreements with employees, that eventually discussions can happen here, but I don't know how that works with elected officials, so I don't know that without checking that.
Mhm.
We're talking to Jack, so. Yeah.
The question regarding transfer. Seeing as how they're providing a countywide service, and I'm not getting into, who pays what, I don't care about that, is that they're providing a countywide service, if it would be possible, it may be prudent to seek an Attorney General's opinion on that, if it helps resolve the issue.
We already checked with the HR person, who that's his thing, but yeah, we can.
Because the HR isn't, he's not, by his own admission, he's not an attorney.
No, but he knows
And
the
any
hiring rules.
advice that he gives you, he's indemnified from it. I'm just thinking, if you seek an Attorney General's opinion, it may come out exactly what he's saying, and he may be 150% correct.
He is,
But
but yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'll talk to Chauncey, because Chauncey talked to him.
If
And it'd be nice if he
if
was
it
on, because
helps,
he could talk.
great, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and if it puts, as Susie indicated, puts the mind of the folks
Sure.
at ease,
I know I've asked like 3 different times, maybe. What do
I
ask?
think Lee is right.
Sure.
I think first time.
That's right.
But,
Would you call my wife?
no, I'm not calling her that. That would cost you more. I do think we need to ask the Attorney General. Buck stops there.
Mhm.
Could you please ask Chauncey about that then?
Okay, we could call ourselves, so.
Oh, well, yeah, go ahead if you'd like to.
Okay.
I'm open to that. Just get a written
I
response.
just, if I'm an employee and that
I just-
transition was to take place, I feel a lot.
We
more
checked,
comfortable. And I
like we
realize
say,
that's.
several times, and this was even before we had Jack check, or the HR person we checked. And that was the answer. Then when we got him, we checked.
And like I say, everybody may be 150% correct on that.
No, it's good to know for sure. That's totally fine.
Thank you.
Clarify respectfully, I think we've at a point that we should stop this conversation.
Yeah.
Because no, not going nowhere. But I just want to comment that there are a lot of, the law center, it encompasses a lot of different things. And emergency management, and there is things that run together. But what we have been trying to do is really put those in silos to make sure that we're clear about what it runs to do this section, what it runs to do emergency management. When the city council said, no, we don't want to include the $2, I don't remember the conversation, I have to go back and look. But from my view, it really was only talking about emergency management. It was not trying to messy the waters with dispatch and everything else. I'm hoping at our next emergency management meeting, we'll clarify our budget again, because my personal feeling is I didn't think we did a very good job at emergency management that first meeting when we talked about our budget. I think there were things, and Bart has things, the budget was here and it had these other things that really should be included in the budget. And increasing to $2 is really a Band-Aid. And I think the city council is looking for a longer term, really what makes sense to go forward. So again, I guess I'm just communicating that there are things that, we don't want to messy different things in different categories. And that's what we've been trying to do, is separate those. We know that that guard has to run the jail and, you know, his side and, you know, we respect that. You know, we know that's a hard job. And we know that police and sheriffs, you know, they're under a lot of stress in different ways. And, I just want to show my appreciation for that because, it's a hard job to do.
Yeah.
And
We all
so,
agree with that.
yeah, and, this spreadsheet that Aaron put together was really designed to focus in on just the dispatch and to communicate the idea in just that area that the city in the long term would pay more, that it wasn't equal up. So again, that's putting it just in that little silo. So and I think as far as service agency goes, what our members of service agency are looking for is to really honor the 2080 agreement. And I think in the past, and this is all our faults who people were involved, we got a little sloppy. You know, I'm not blaming anybody. I just think we didn't follow what we said we were gonna write out about presenting, you know, bills to the other side or making sure they really understood it before we spent the money so that when the bill came, we were good. So I think we need to work harder at that. And so it's more clear.
Right, totally agree. And I think that's an important clarification because these numbers are only for dispatch, equipment and personnel costs. However, we're still thinking on the Board of Supervisors, we're still working on the current 2080. And this is not part of the current 2080 because it clearly has stated in there that dispatch salaries are responsibility of the city. So therefore, these are two different things. So if we're gonna have this conversation, then we also need to get one of these sheets for how we would handle the rest of the 2080. Because if you take out part of it, you're tampering with everything. And there's no right or wrong. It just means it's fix the one as, you know, that there is. And our offer for the one as is to employ the dispatchers. Because we figured that was a straightforward thing to do.
And I think that's what Doug particularly ultimately has been looking for from the service agency, for the service agency and for the city side is that 28E budget that hasn't, you know, and you're right, this is a little bit tinier silo, you know.
So then we need to get a silo for all the other things in that, so we can say, okay, do we want this model or do we want this model?
Or some combination there, you know, whatever. So I just want to clarify that, I think that's what's creating all these high emotions for a lot of people, and at times for me included, and I apologize for that, is that, you know, we're blurring lines way too often. And the city, you know, we do want to be partners with the county. We see no reason to make this more expensive for our taxpayers.
Right.
And, you know, I used to say, I'm going to be kind of silly here, but, you know, I used to say, you know, people I work with, I'm married to, just like my husband. And sometimes we have disagreements, right? And so we got to work through it. And that's where we're at, you know. Our true belief is that we're partners with the county supervisors, our police department, partners with the sheriff, and we see them do that. We see them do that when there's an emergency and they help each other out, and that's the appropriate thing to do. And so again, you know, we're just in a hard time right now, and so is the world. So we're just going along with it, I guess. But I think I just again wanted to reiterate about how we need to, you know, keep the silos where they're at. Yes, there's this overall, and we don't want to mix the gray lines as much as we can.
So I want to make sure on the to-do list, we get everything addressed. So the to-do list is Aaron, you're gonna find out exactly what you want in writing as far as,
I will talk to
Employment.
Doug and Paul and the council about.
and let us know,
what
and we'll put
in
something in writing, okay, please, okay. Susie's gonna contact the Attorney General's office.
Tom knows.
Mhm.
I'll reaffirm with Chauncey and also have him pull up, well, we'll see what you find out. But also have him, you and he maybe connect, when
I
do you
will
connect
share
with him?
with him what I find out,
Yeah.
as I will share it with.
Because I know he has
Everybody.
researched it, so that's what we need to know. Perfect. Okay, what else do we want?
28E budget outside of dispatch.
Well, we pretty much have that. The only thing we're not in agreement with is the city wanted to put the 450,000 for the dispatch salaries in there. We said no, because that's not part of the current 28E. But other than that, I think.
But we still need a budget for that, because that's.
I think
that's
Right, and
money.
those are numbers that the city would have to produce as what they're paying for that 2080 agreement, because it specifically states in the 2080 agreement that the city pays for dispatch personnel and benefits.
No, well, I'm talking.
But that's different. We're
Yeah.
talking.
Right, but
everything.
again, you were just talking
Ask that
about,
question, please.
You guys, I just want to say something, okay? I'm wondering how many people were actually living in the city and the county when this 2080 started? How
Actually,
many folks, can you tell me how many folks worked in the sheriff's office then?
That was in
1972.
you know
No.
what?
That would
No.
have been, no.
no, with the new laws,
Yeah, the new
that's what
laws.
we're talking about. So that would be about 1997,
2000.
somewhere in there through now.
I don't know, but.
Because that was, yeah, the new law.
I think it's about the same, because I looked when the census came out,
Mhm.
somewhere at home, I've got all the, like how it changed, and it stayed pretty steady through the years. I don't know.
Yeah, okay,
about-
so I'm getting to the fact
2000.
I wish you all would consider that people change, things change, technology has improved,
Mhm.
also has the price of that technology. You know, I just think none of us can be so rigid. We're going to have to all suffer some pain here.
Mhm.
Well,
So-
and I think,
As
I
with
think
any
that's a fair
marriage,
statement, you know.
Yeah.
This agreement, I think has worked, you know, I mean, it's worked. It's not that it hasn't worked, but everybody. I'm not sure, I won't say that we completely followed it, because we haven't been doing very good about presenting a budget to service agency.
Right.
But again, but I do think it's reasonable when the city starts seeing their portion
Mhm.
that now they feel is out of whack, to come back and say, hey, let's reevaluate. I think that's what they try to do.
Right.
Again, what I would like to see is we've got really what it takes to run the dispatch, or at least I believe we do, based on what Aaron put together and what he was provided from Bart or D or whoever. And, but I do think we need to now see what's the rest of the 2080 in a
Correct.
budget form. I
Right.
think that does need to go to service agency,
You
from my
know,
understanding.
You know, Connie, because, and you've spent the time too, both of you, but these guys have spent a lot of time, and it's been years. Sorry.
Yeah.
We're all elected here except for Aaron and Jerry. We owe something to the public. I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
Yeah, it's time to resolve it.
It is.
So let's try to get a to-do list so we can get it done.
Yeah, so if you could add that to your listing.
What specifically?
Well, the budget part of the rest of the 2080, where we share expenses, just that, do we have
We
that?
pretty much,
Do we have that?
we conceptually have that. We could probably have a meeting and get that one approved if we Now, this is where we get in a challenge, if it's okay, if we're gonna use the current language of the 2080 as the first agreement. If that's the case, then we pull the dispatch salaries out of there.
Well, I think just to get somewhere and.
Because we have the
Because
rest of
The
us
service
agreed on.
agency still doesn't have a budget, is my understanding, is that correct?
Right, and that's been the reason why, because we said it clearly states that's not part of this agreement, so we don't want the salaries in this.
Yeah,
Budget.
and I agree, that's where we're stuck.
That's where we're stuck.
Because the
So if-
city's
if
saying,
we
hey,
can
we
res-
want that to be relooked at.
So
But if we're stuck here, we're still stuck, but we still need, I think,
a budget until we
budget.
get the bigger picture figured out, yes. And so just to move that budget forward, we can
We
do
need to
that,
that
we've
part.
got that.
That's all in my budget.
What?
That's all in my budget. Under 53 and 59 each year. It's currently in
Yeah.
there. It's in next year's budget.
and that's fine, it's just that it's not
But it's
getting over
just
to
the
service
service
agency, I don't
agency.
think. I think it's getting to the supervisors.
This
but my
isn't,
impression it's
this
not getting to
is,
the
when we say
supervisors.
budget, it's more like a working document budget,
Yeah.
because it's not one that's gonna get certified by the state.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
This is an internal document for service agents
That's something for everybody to work off of, to plan for in the
Yeah.
future.
and a
And that's-
communication tool, so we don't go through this again. And remember, we've never done this before, which is why it's so painful.
and Barb, my impression is that that budget does come from what you put together. It's just that it's not getting pushed over to service agency for them to review it and to be able to communicate to the city that, hey, that, we gotta do this to the building and a third of that or the 33% or whatever it is.
But the
is gonna be
challenge,
ours.
I think the challenge there is the service agency used to meet like what, how many times a year? Because you've been on
Once
it
a
on.
year, maybe.
Yeah, you've been on it longer.
Because I
than
was
have.
on it with the city as well.
And so now we've met a lot.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but we need to get some reasonable plans so that we're not micromanaging, as long as he stays within the big picture.
Right,
We're not micromanaging. If he's got a breakdown and needs to fix it,
right.
by the time each of us schedules a meeting and we have to do it because it has to be at least 24-hour notice. But the harder part than that is getting the 4 of our schedules to jive so we can all meet at once, because Doug can only meet on certain times. So I think, and Paul sometimes, we have times we're not available, but we're pretty flexible. So that's the bigger challenge is
Yeah.
scheduling.
Yeah.
If there's an
And
immediate
they,
need
yeah,
that
I
needs,
agree,
so.
probably needs
So we
be
have
done
to
once a
figure
year.
out how we address that and say, if something needs taken care of, it should be. And we've got to trust that that's a legitimate thing to do.
And I have to add to the fact that since I'd been on the service agency board, various capacities, city and county, the only time that the board would meet was when there was something that was outside of the budget that was in the sheriff's office budget to pay for to begin with, that needed to be addressed and taken back to each respective so that they could budget or find money in order to do the improvement. And it's been as small as replacing a door that had concrete in the center of it as a security door. And there's been years that there were no meetings at all because there was nothing like that came up, because everything still stayed within the confines of the budget that the sheriff creates at the beginning of the fiscal year time period that you need to have your budget approved by March 28th or the end of March every
But
year.
the point is that budget is not reviewed by service agency, it's not, and so the service agency can't bring it to the city and say, hey, put this in your budget, So we're not seeing, the city's not seeing their side of it, what they're gonna be obligated to until they get a bill. Right now, maybe we're just putting in a lump sum, and we've been doing that for years. So The point is, we're not following what the 2080 agreement says.
If we wanted, as long as we're brainstorming other ideas, the simplest thing to do would be, we look back several years. Now, this year it's lower, but if you look back the last 4 years, it's been right at $95,000 to $100,000 is what the city's paid the county. The easiest thing would be to do is just to say, we just do that, and then if there's something above whatever that amount is, then we talk about it. That's something to consider for parts of the rest of that agreement, if we're gonna do something like this.
I think the 5-year average, when I pulled it up, was 101,000.
Yeah,
They ended last budget year at below 92. This year, like I said, there's no, they probably won't even reach 80,000. I don't know. So it just depends on the company. But we're through 9 months of budget year.
but that would be the easiest thing to do.
And I mean, and again, I just want to clarify, we're not interested in micromanaging that project. It's just that information that does need to flow, that's all.
Well, and that would be nice to have that all flow from the representatives to the council.
Okay. All right. I don't believe we have anything further to discuss. We've got items that we've got to work on, and we're going to take it to both our respective entities, and we will come up with that.
So can I clarify this thing on the budget for the current 2080? Do we need to schedule a service agency meeting, or do you want to ask Doug?
For the current
Current
budget
one?
or next fiscal year?
No, I'm talking this year, the one that we've got on that long sheet.
I would say we just get ready for 2020 FY 24.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
2023 is what we just got done with approving, so we would have to work on 24.
But I'm talking about the long sheet that has the service agency budget piece.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So.
Yeah.
You want that spreadsheet as a dispatch thing, as an addendum to the 2080 spreadsheet?
No, this is different than the 2080 because it has salaries and stuff in it, and the current.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is the light that sometimes doesn't, is like, we're also mixing not just EMA and service agency. We are mixing, this does not do with the current 2080, so because it includes salaries and all that. It's like a worksheet. So if we're gonna do everything like this, then we need to do that on the rest of the current 2080 to see how this kind of a model, or else go to the current one.
You
as is.
misunderstood my question.
Okay,
You want what we've got together, taking out the costs for the employees off of that spreadsheet. And then moving forward, we just keep a running spreadsheet so that, like Doug or Darren had said, that we have to provide that information for costs and all that stuff. So it's kind of an addendum to the current budget. Is it correct?
It would,
Because it's in the 2080 that the city pays for those salaries. So do we present that to you on a spreadsheet, or what do you want to see?
oh, I see, you want to present the salaries.
No, how do you want it? Because that's basically what had happened with that budget is, here's the costs. City employee costs for the dispatch center are right here, but it showed 100% of those costs were spent by the city. And not, county didn't participate in that. The rest of the costs
Oh,
were all
that could be
spread
an
out.
addendum. I see what you're saying. You're just asking about that long spread sheet
Yeah,
that has it here. Yeah, because
Was that his budget? That
that's
has
the
all
one
that on it?
Doug and I put together. Doug put a lot of it together.
but see,
And it followed point by point. Point one was these costs, point
but
two
it
was this
had, that's
cost.
the one that had the dispatch salaries in it, where the county was saying that's not part of the current agreement.
Mhm.
So sure, that could be an addendum, like today when we did the mental health stuff, we had these like exhibit A or B, because then we know what that cost was.
How is that different than what he presented?
I don't think it is. It's just a different way.
His is all on a printout from kind of the auditor that unless you break it out, you have to know specifically what the numbers are to know what it is. If you break it out as far as.
So we tried to break it out from those numbers.
We did
Correct.
too. We broke
Yeah.
out the two different number
Okay.
categories that we use and we presented that.
Okay.
And you guys didn't want to really have anything to do with it at that point in time. You still wanted to say that dispatch salaries are all part of the 28E agreement. And so we need to look at how everybody in that group is paying for that.
Yes.
Okay, and the idea that if salary increases are being given, that the service agency board can deny that is absurd. So, if we say a fixed cost is what is going to be going on with salaries, and if there's some change in the structure by the service or by the dispatch to create a new supervisor position of that dispatch office, and their salary is going to go up by 20,000 because now they're the supervisor of that the service agency should have some say as to whether that can be done or not. And I don't think that the service agency has any purview or right to have anything to say on that, because there again, it's city and city employees.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
so that
Yeah.
number is always going to continue to go up, but it's still a cost that's supposed to be borne by the city according to the current 28E agreement.
That is correct.
So,
That is correct. However, the city was asking to have that be reviewed and another arrangement. So,
right, and
And so-
we reviewed it and we proposed that the county take over the dispatch personnel in order to relieve the city's amount that they're paying for personnel, which reduces your overall budget
right,
for a year.
right.
So, anytime that you're saying that you're going to add to that budget for the next year with personnel costs, again, the service agency has no control over whether that can be even considered at their board. I mean, I can't come in and say that
Okay, I'm
this
not
doesn't
arguing
work,
that,
that,
Karen. I'm not
okay,
arguing
well,
that, you know.
it
I'm
seems
just-
that that's what we are arguing about.
I don't think we're arguing about anything at this point, other than what do you want to have on this budget spreadsheet?
Yeah.
And I would disagree, from what I'm just gonna say, I disagree that to have the dispatch salaries on that budget, no, you're not necessarily approving that, but it is part of the 2080. It says right there, city shall bore these costs.
It
And
is,
if you
but
show
then
that-
when the service agency has to review it and look at it as a budget and propose it back to the
Can I-
entities, it's a 2-2 board.
That's not my point. It's just that when you present the budget, these costs the city is spending. That's the way the 2080 says, the city's spending these costs. That's what it says.
Right.
So I don't understand why. I really could care less, but I don't understand your argument whatsoever. Because it says that cost should be there, which
Right.
the city pays for it, and
Right.
the city's not arguing that point.
Right.
We would like you to consider in the future something different, but that's a different story, and we're not gonna get anywhere, because
All right.
I don't care what I present at this point.
All right. I think that concludes all the business that was before the Board of Supervisors this
Thank you.
morning. Thank you very much to everybody for joining us on Zoom and
Very social.
everything. I would move for a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
I have a second, moved by Hamilton, seconded by Drish. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting, say aye. Aye. All
Bye,
those
Jerry.
opposed,
You've been working a lot
thank you
lately?
very much, everybody.
Have you been working a lot lately?
Oh, yeah.